Hello, Namaskar, welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA is all for knows conversations and analysis. My name is Juggi Bhasin. A very famous victory in Maharashtra. What does it mean for the country? What does it also mean for the deep state, the international deep state, which we all know has been trying to make inroads into India for a very, very long time? Let's start right from the beginning. This famous victory in Maharashtra of the NDA government, it means that this government, the present regime in India, gets breathing space for the next 2 years at least. It doesn't have to worry too much about political alignments, realignments, political uncertainty. It is comparatively safe. And the reason for that is because the next big challenge for this government, of course, would be Delhi in February, but that is still a minor state as compared to all these other big states we have been talking about. And then the big states which will, the assembly elections which are important are of course Bihar and then UP in 2027, but that is still some time away, far away, and therefore this government gets breathing space. But what does it mean for the deep state also? Because the deep state has been making persistent efforts to wobble this government, and we know that for a very, very long time. And now it is emerging that a particular district in New York, that is the Brooklyn district, a certain prosecutor there, a lot of indictments are coming from that particular quarter. But that is not the only deep state which I'm talking about. There are many other features of the deep state which I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about this relationship between the deep state and what it plans to do and what it is trying to do in India, and how the Maharashtra elections maybe temporarily has stopped the deep state in its tracks. It hasn't completely derailed the deep state, but it has certainly, at least for now, stopped the deep state in its tracks. I'm going to talk about all these issues today, but first, as always, I would urge all of you to subscribe to my channel, the CAA Show. It's very, very simple. Really, all you have to do is press that red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. Would also appreciate if you could like the video and share this video with your friends, with your colleagues and peers. Thank you for listening to this message. And now let's dive right back into this very, very interesting topic. But let's start from the beginning. Maharashtra. Why is Maharashtra so important? It is not only important because it is the second most populous state in the country after Uttar Pradesh. It sends a record number of legislators, people who make law into a parliament, the assembly. It is also important, as we all know, because it is the most industrialized state in the country. It is therefore like the economic powerhouse of the country. And therefore Maharashtra becomes very important. Also, I think that Maharashtra has a very interesting strategic location where it is like this connecting force, connecting state between the north and the south. What happens in Maharashtra has a bearing not only in the north, but it certainly has a bearing also in the south of the country, and therefore Maharashtra becomes very important. And therefore, let's take it from the view of the present government in India. We all know that after the 2024 June elections, they won a kind of a patchy victory. And if you want to see proof of that, then you can see the speech of the Prime Minister when he addressed the party workers at the BJP headquarters immediately in June after the elections. He looked very de-spirited. We all know that. And now look at the speech which he made at the BJP headquarters in Delhi. And he looked like a totally different person, or rather, one would say he looked like his old self of the vintage Prime Minister that we all know. So, Maharashtra has brought this change of fortunes. It started, of course, as we know, with Haryana, but a lot of people have exaggerated the importance of Haryana. I think Haryana is very, very important. It's a small state, but immediately what it did for the present government was that it stopped an agitation from snowballing at the borders of Delhi, which was very, very crucial. Haryana by itself, of course, is a very important state. But the real test was Maharashtra. The thing in the game really was, would this government be able to secure Maharashtra? And they did, and how they did is, of course, a different story altogether. The winning of Maharashtra has many lessons, and I'm going to talk about this vis-a-vis the deep state. Now let's talk a little bit of the deep state. It is a fact that, as I said, the eastern part of the city in New York, the Brooklyn side, a certain prosecutor, strangely for some reason, a lot of indictments of whether they are of Indian businessmen or Indian citizens or even senior functionaries in the Indian government, that is the NSA in the Indian government, they've all been coming from these quarters, and you would argue that what exactly is going on, because after all, the personal chemistry, as we all saw on television screens, between President Biden and the Prime Minister of India was extremely good. But then somebody could also argue that when Mr. Donald Trump, after his famous victory, which is only a few weeks back, when he met Joe Biden in the White House, the chemistry also seemed to be very good out there. They were smiling, chatting, shaking hands, walking together. Something very similar was happening with our Prime Minister when he met with Joe Biden. And then we all know what has happened after that. I'm talking of after what is happening right now in America, for instance, all this, the sanctioning of the long-range missiles, which have taken place, a lot of people are arguing, without the consultation of the Biden administration with the incoming Trump administration. Because this is, after all, now a government transition, really, at the end of the day. And maybe something similar in a certain sense what happened with India, that there were all these bonhomies, smiles, hugging, cheering, clapping, and rosy prognosis of India-US relations between India and America. And then what happened after that? The deep state struck. So my own take on this entire thing is that maybe it comes from the top, but there is also a very strong probability that it might not be coming from the top. It is the entrenched bureaucracy which actually is responsible for these actions. Because please remember, an old dictum which I would like to talk about is that bureaucracy is eternal. Politicians are temporary. And therefore, when a lot of people say, oh, the Trump administration will come and things are going to be much better vis-a-vis India, I'm sorry, I'm not too very hopeful of all these things. Nothing to do with the Trump administration, but the simple fact is, at the end of the day, the bureaucracy plays a big role, both in India as well as in the United States. Classic example, just to stretch this point a little further, is that there is a lot of talk of the DOGE in America, that they would trim the bureaucracy, and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy would, pioneer some kind of a revolution, really, in this country. A lot of well-meaning people are saying that this is a lot of tall talk. It probably would never happen. Even if it happens, there would be huge amount of resistance, because, as I keep saying, bureaucracy is eternal and politicians come and go. They are temporary. And therefore, to stress this point now and come to India, the same thing applies to India. The Trump administration might be, of course, we have had good relationships with the Republicans. They might leave alone as a policy to India, to their devices or whatever we want to do, but the bureaucracy won't. And to simply say that a new administration will come and they would uproot all the old bureaucrats is not possible. And so therefore, in short, what I'm really saying is that all these strange reports which keep coming from the United Nations or the Human Rights Commission, the US, I think CIR, whatever it is called, and all these other bodies and all these rankings, they probably will continue. The needling will continue. And therefore, let's come to the main point when we are talking about India-US relations, that 2 days before, I think it is 2 days before the Maharashtra election results came out, that the indictment of Adani happened. I am certainly not some supporter of Mr. Adani or anything. If he has done wrong, then he has to face the music. But the question is, where does he face the music? Does he face the music in India, or does he face the music in the United States? That is the question which we are not talking, and it's all this talk of arrest him and send him to New York and everything is to my mind, complete rubbish. I don't think so. Any government, certainly not this government, and even if it had been, let's say, the Congress government, they would have agreed to something like this. That is not going to happen. But the fact of the matter is this: what really is the larger problem which is occurring out here is, the larger problem which is occurring is, and we have to understand this entire thing in the context of the deep state also, is that there are certain bureaucracies, there are certain powerful interests, there are certain NGO actors, there are certain multilateral institutions which are extremely unhappy that India is not listening to them. It's not only the Russia-Ukraine war, that is of course a major problem which is occurring in the sense that these people are poo-pooing, as it is called, that what is this strategic autonomy which India keeps talking about? You have to pick and choose a side. That is one of the issues, but it's the larger entire issue of societal change, of the politics of this country, of the kind of nation you want to be, that is running at odds with all these entrenched powerful interests. They don't like this about India, this independent streak of India, and therefore that is the nub of the problem which is going on. And as I said, I don't think so it's going to stop just because after maybe a few weeks a new administration comes over and hey presto, by a miracle, all this will disappear. I don't think so it will disappear. It might subside a little bit, but it will continue. We will have to face the music. And that's the other thing which I want to talk about in my podcast today. How do we deal with this? See, I have talked about the response of the deep state. I have talked about the importance of Maharashtra, but let us also talk a little bit of the response of our government out here. And I'll make a very interesting comparison for all of you to understand. The ruling regime in India before the June 2024 elections, it had the slogan of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. And it went into the elections with this promise of 400 seats, 400 plus seats for the government, without specifying what those 400 seats were meant for. It almost raised the stature of the Prime Minister to some kind of a demigod. I think all these were major mistakes which are being made, and I'll tell you why. See, people, when you talk about, I want 400 seats, then they want to know for what. I mean, you win in India in parliament elections with 272. Why do you want 400 seats? They should have specified they want 400 seats if they want to bring about a change in the courts, or if they want to push through certain constitutional changes, amendments, or if there was a specific bills which they wanted to bring about. What did you want those 400 seats? They were never specified. And this entire thing, though we are all together, everything is hunky-dory and everything, did not work well for the BJP. And I'm certainly not for one saying that we should, the ruling dispensation should embark on divisive agendas. But the fact of the matter also, it has to project what it is really at the end of the day. And therefore, when the main slogan, that is "Batenge to Katenge," came, and then the kind of more refined version of I think the Prime Minister refined that particular slogan when he gave the call that you have to be united for the country. That was a realization that these problems cannot be wished away by taking on or adorning or taking on the role which the Congress has done of that we are a secular lot. The word secularism has been abused no end in India. When you say that, when you put out dramatically to the people who you are, what you stand for, what your policies are, the people then will respect you, the people then will vote for you, and this is what has happened first in Haryana and then in Maharashtra. And a lot of commentators who are now saying, oh, all this Maharashtra elections are a result of the Ladli Behan scheme, where you literally have been bribing people by giving women money. I'm sorry, I don't agree. Please remember, the Congress promised something very similar in UP when they brought out this entire list of things that we will give so much of money to women, And what happened after that? After the elections, not a single paisa was given to the poor women who had all voted for the Congress party. So, whether it is the women, whether it is the people of Maharashtra, they analyze that yes, there are two dispensations, the NDA dispensation and the Congress dispensation. Both are promising us incentives, freebies, whatever you want to call it. But I would rather go along with the freebies, the help which this government is giving, because they have a track record of delivering, whereas the other dispensation does not have a track record. They make promises, only tall promises, big promises, and that is why the other dispensation failed. And that's the point which I'm making, that whether it comes to managing your internal politics, that is, you have to be upfront about it, or whether it is managing the deep state, then you have to be upfront about it. And there I find a little bit of divergence with the policy of this government, because the policy of this government has always been to evade the deep state and not confront it. I'm repeating this again. The policy of this government has always been to evade the deep state and not confront it. Come to think of it, we have not taken up the issue of Pannu, for instance, very seriously, because, as I said, the right is on your side. The morality is on your side. The perfect reason why you should be taking up these issues strongly is on your side, but you never did that. You kind of evaded the issue. Oh, let sleeping dogs lie. Let's not rake too much of issue. Let these things continue. See, you have to understand the United States also. There's one thing which I really like about the American people is that they're, as I said, there might be entrenched bureaucracy, there might be all that, but by and large, the American people like straight talking in your face. That is something which is a hallmark of the American people. They are not duplicitous people, and therefore, if there is something which is troubling us, then we have every right to talk to the bureaucracies here, the people here, the powers to be here, that guys, we are not happy. If you say that we are a strategic partner, if you say we are a strategic ally, listen to us, listen to our concerns. Our concerns are the Khalistanis, our concerns are the separatist agenda which is being allowed to grow. Our concern is a character like Pannu, who is a terrorist, literally. We should have taken it up more forcefully, and even when it came to the Vikas Yadav issue, see, at the end of the day, whatever he has done or not done, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, the point which was never taken up by this government was that he was at the end of the day, he forget about being a member of RAW, but he actually was from the armed forces of the country. And any country takes its personnel very seriously of the armed forces. You just don't say, oh, the law will take its course. See, we have a standard response to all things. The law will take its own course. Now let's come to the Adani issue also, vis-a-vis the deep state. As I said, I'm not a defender of Adani. I don't know anything about Adani. I don't have any Adani shares or anything of that sort. And as I said, if he has committed crimes in India, then of course, he needs to be punished for that. Having said that, let's clear that out of the way. But the fact also is this: who exactly is Adani? And why are people after him? Both the opposition in this country and certainly a lot of people abroad also, the deep state certainly. Adani is not an individual. Adani is actually an extension of the government, and not in the sense which the opposition is saying, oh, he's a friend of the Prime Minister. That is not the issue. As a policy, what is India now looking to? India is looking to spread its wings. Now, how do you spread your wings? You spread your wings, as I said, by bringing more and more goodness in the economic, social and political upliftment in the country. But you also do it by spreading your wings internationally, by developing infrastructure outside the country also, because that gives you heft, that raises your valuation, that gives you the respect which you command in the world. Now, how would India do that? In the old days, India would do that by maybe pushing or prodding some private sector companies, which not too many of them have done, but also by somehow giving projects to our public sector units. Now, PSU units, some of the best of them, but they have a very old-fashioned, different way, slow way of making progress. They couldn't have fulfilled the country's agenda. And therefore, the space was vacant, and Adani stepped in. He said that, listen, I will take this infrastructure push for India abroad. And therefore, I am saying Adani is not Adani as an individual. He becomes an extension of the Indian government to that extent, to influence, to spread Indian influence, Indian expertise, Indian, this penchant, as we say, for developing infrastructure all over the world. And that was something which was not liked by the powers to be, by the deep state, all across, I would say. I'm not particularly only talking here of America or something, I'm talking of many other countries. And therefore this pushback is coming, whether it is coming through the likes of Hindenburg or through George Soros or through the deep state or these entrenched bureaucracy, it doesn't matter. It is coming because the target is back home, is not even in Adani, it is actually the economy of India, that try and wobble the economy in India and then certainly put an end to this infrastructure push with people like Adani are taking it up for India. That is really the end goal. And therefore, how do you deal with this? That is the critical question. You don't deal with this by waffling and by coming up with these funny lines. The law will take its own course. Yeah, we know the law will take its own course. Whether how Adani will reply to the New York court and all that and all this matter, that of course is a separate thing altogether. But you have to make a statement of intent. You have to go behind the lines. Don't even talk about Adani, but talk about the fact that, guys, what is going on? When we wanted the Union Carbide chief, which later became Dow Chemicals, Walter Anderson, to come to and stand trial in India, America did not oblige. Now, why are we obliged to send this fellow back? If he has done something wrong here, then we will punish him. The Indian courts will punish him. Where is the jurisdiction of the Indian courts? Nobody is talking about that, Nobody is talking about that how did you investigate this fellow? Who investigated him? If the FBI investigated him, then it becomes a very serious matter that the FBI is openly investigating things inside India. Can the IB, for instance, of India, can the intelligence agents of India start investigating inside America? They can't do that. And that is absolutely wrong. Similarly, vis-a-vis the same. Why are these questions not being raised? See, as I said, I'm saying this again and again, America is a land of frankness, of forthrightness, of in your face. They are a people who like this. And therefore, you have to stand up with friendly nations, with, I won't say allies, we are not allies, but we are certainly strategic allies. You have to tell them that, guys, we are uncomfortable. What exactly are you doing? And it's all very well say another administration come, all this are reverse, but that is not how it works. As I told you the point, bureaucracies are entrenched, politicians come and go. You will have to deal with bureaucracies. If cases are filed in courts, then cases are not just going to go away. They will stay there and they will keep troubling. Tomorrow, let's say by all this, Mr. Adani is not able to travel internationally, and that is a possibility. Certainly not to the US, but then even to a lot of other Western countries. Tomorrow, if Kenya, under pressure of the US, has scrapped an Adani project, then other countries could also do that. So it's a blow not only for this particular group, but it's a blow for India. And therefore, the time has come where we have to change our policy and take up these matters more forthrightly with the governments. And as I said, these are games. These are ding-dong battles which keep going on between countries. I still maintain the US is a very, very dear friend and an ally, a strategic ally of India, and that's bound to remain irrespective of whichever political dispensation is there. And I certainly am not going to condemn all the Democrats are against India. Certainly not. There's a lot of goodness. There's a lot of good messages for India from the Democrats. I would certainly not agree with that. It's only the Republicans who are favorable to India. These kind of prognoses are not correct. But the fact also is, as I said, there is an entrenched bureaucracy. You have to take up these issues with the US government. You have to take up these issues with other foreign powers. and just to give an example, for instance, the climate change conference that happened in Azerbaijan, and I think the Western Bloc countries who unilaterally, as it were, decided on a certain funding for the climate change without taking into the concerns of the developing world, the emerging economies like India. India has, of course, now protested this. We don't accept this. So this is what you need to do more and more. You need to stand up and be counted. You need to stand up and speak for yourself. You need to stand up and tell what exactly, and this is what friends do. Okay? You want to shirk the issue. You want to run away from the issue. You want to close and say, oh, let the law take its course. It doesn't happen like that. This issue is not going to go away. This Adani issue is going to be there. You just have to meet this, confront this, and with honesty. I'm not saying with slight or with subterfuge. Be honest about it. If the bribes have been paid, then the Indian courts have to take cognizance of this. Punishments have to be handed out. Fair enough, but Indian courts. But take up these issues. As I said, your frankness, your forthrightness, your not being duplicitous on this issue will hold you in good stead. You will be respected more and more. We are on a good trajectory. Maharashtra has given the momentum. Let's keep it going. But let's also, whatever glitches, whatever shortcomings we had in our projection, let's overcome that and face all these issues with more frankness and with more courage and certainly with more optimism. And so on this note, I come to the end of this particular podcast. I hope you really like this podcast. You like my show. Do subscribe to it. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.